used to only come to about here. So this is the depth for the door. So this needs to be primed and painted. But we're going to bring the door up as well to check the fit before putting any paint on it. So the door almost fits. Doesn't quite fit in the top. And I don't want to go gouging any higher into the door frame because that would be stupid. I've already started to chisel into there and I went, that's going to be silly if I go too deep there. So I'm going to get a power plane and take a few mil off the top of the door. I've got it sitting on the sawhorses up on the deck. By taking it off the top of the door, it's going to be easier to repaint. If I'm trying to get the door installed, I can actually do the final coats of paint once it's actually installed, which you can get it to edit it from the top. Power plane, here we come. Wish I had done it that way the first time. It's when I used the plane and it was something that you're supposed to anticipate. It did blow the grain out, which split the timber at the back. So I've got that glued back in and it's going to be the hinge side, so you're not likely to see it. But that was easier and cleaner. I just received this from Amazon, little fragile stickers all over it. So I'm going to open it now to see just going to cut through this paper tape that they use. This is freaking ridiculous. The lid is upside down. It is not even on the coffee jar. That is freaking ridiculous. How does that come off the jar and flip upside down? This is like the third or fourth time this has happened. It's Tuesday, 24th, just to keep us in check here. Forgot to do a thing yesterday after year 11 construction. I only had a couple of kids show up for some reason. A few more here today. There's some helping out with swim school in year 7 this week. But I've got them today. Just had an out period 2. I've got them again in period 4. No class in period 3. So I told them just to leave their stuff out. I know that this one's a student working on their accessible one. These two are still working on their practice one. There's one that's a practice one. Some of the others actually put their stuff away. Fun part was managed to get my stereo going, so I got to have some of my music playing during class, which was good. It's good seeing the ones who are now working on their own, because you can watch them trying to remember what they've got to do, reading the plans. Some students, like ones over here, taken a while to get going. Once they got going, they're really focused. They're working. They've actually said the other day that they're actually enjoying themselves doing it. Didn't know why he waited so long to start. 3 weeks left of the year. These are meant to be finished by the end of the year. I think they'll tip over into next year, which, being the year it's been, we can let this run a little bit into the start of next year if we need to. they're working well now. That's the main thing.
Tuesday's done. I just spent the afternoon checking reports. Checked off all of Year 11 the other day, Year 10 yesterday as finalised. Year 9 at the moment. 7 and 8 I'll get done in the next couple of days. The construction class did well for the second period that I had them. They're working really well. I'm really pleased with it at the moment. More students arrived during the day. They were all really working really well, and when it came to pack up, they're the only class in there now. So I said I'm okay with their projects staying on the tables neatly, as long as all the tools go away and all of the room gets basically cleaned up. And they were great. They worked really well and they cleaned up really well. A couple of them still put their projects like into cupboards and stuff, but some of them that had them assembled left them on the table, which is fine.
I rarely talk about these type of lessons. I just had a theory lesson with Year 11 construction for their cluster booklet, doing the maths involved in calculations and volumes and area and all that sort of stuff for the course. Some of them aren't too happy about doing theory, but this is one of our theory rooms. This is the computer room in our trade school. And so the big metal trade building is in behind that door. But this is one of our theory rooms, mainly for my faculty, but other faculties do use it just as a computer room. But it's set up for our faculty with the textbooks up in the corner and posters that relate to our subjects, and the fact that it's right next door. But they are set up as completely separate rooms, so a prac room in there, theory room in here, and you can't have two classes in here at the same time. Just removed the strike plates off our computer room because staff are having trouble opening and closing the door. So I'm going to file it out a bit and put them back on. Hopefully opening that hole up a bit, because there's two of them, will allow that giant bolt to slide in and out easier. Let's go install them. The other issue I've had with that lock is it's a heavy door, and with those two latch keys, not latch plates, not lining up right, it's really hard to turn the lock in and out. Other thing is, it's not a key that everybody has, so we keep it in the staff room. Here's the key, and here's the keyboard. I did have somebody say, it's a bit heavy to try and manage, so I'm going to chop it down and just keep the number pad part of the keyboard and attach it to that.
I've just left work a few minutes ago, and I'm heading to one of our other campuses where I'm on the panel for a head teacher interview process that's happening for their head teacher Taz. The interviews are running between 1 and 3, and we'll interview candidates, and from there I then need to take off and go down to final night of marking for the senior markers. Interviews are done. Interview panels are interesting to be a part of. If you're a teacher listening to this and you ever get a chance to be part of a panel, it's well worth it. I'm now on my way to my final night of marking, and once that's over it'll be good. I can focus on reports, which is still needing to be done. Today is 3 weeks until the end of the school year. 3 weeks to go. One of my staff bought a chair in with a broken leg. I asked if I'd be able to have a look at it and fix it, and I said, sure. I can't even remember when she brought this in, but she's now left the school. So it was a lot earlier this year, or even late last year. Oh my goodness. So I said I would fix it, and so that's what I'm going to try and do now. Oh, it's been bent. So I'm just going to try and remake this piece. Oh cool, it's 70 wide, I've got some of that. Good, it fits. Give the other legs a little bit tighten up as well. You might remember I said in one of my other videos, if you watch them right at the end, got a drill missing. One of my staff had it. I forgot they borrowed it. Oh well. Short rant of frustration for me. Working in the Department of Education school system, you're limited in the sort of tools and machinery you can buy, and I understand it's for work health and safety, and so they have approved machines with safety switches and emergency cover switches, and that's all great. Well, we want to get a spindle sander for the senior workshop, and there's one on contract which is a floor standing large spindle sander, $2,500. If it's a portable power tool, it doesn't have to come off contract. They just suggest that you buy a quality brand for longevity, like an industrial brand. Don't go buying things like a Zito. They actually call them bobbin sanders. I looked those up on a couple of the other suppliers. A cheap bench mounted one, and I say cheap because it was $250, looks kind of similar to the rigid one that you see people having overseas. And they had another one which was about $450 on special, which was bigger, 35 kilos, so 70 odd pounds in weight, like a bench mounted one, and it had a really good emergency stop switch gear on it. But wanting to do the right thing, I emailed compliance and safety for the department and asked them about whether they count as portable power tools, can we buy whatever, and they came back and said, we can't buy the one from this particular company, but there's one from another company that's approved as a bench mounted unit. And I looked at it, and the switch gear on it was rubbish, and it was $820 something. It seriously does not look as robust as the one from this first company. But they said, this other one, you have to ring, talk to a specific person, and request the installation of the Department of Education switchgear, which is $150 extra for a larger on-off, like emergency mushroom type button. Better be like a mushroom type button to have that installed. So they're sending me a quote. So it's probably going to be close to $1,000 for a spindle sander, just the one that sits on top of the bench. I just think that's ridiculous. When the $250 one would do what we want, but this one is tilting, the $450 one was tilting. And it actually has the same emergency stop switchgear on it that was installed for our lasers extraction system. Just frustrating because they're going to question, the boss is going to question, do we need it? We're spending $1,000. And I went searching the other day for CNC routers within the department's government purchasing system. And this small CNC came up, 30 by 30 bed, 100 mil deep, so 30 centimeters squared, 12 inch by 12 inch by 4 inch deep in terms of its working capacity. I put out an email if people knew about it, whether it was actually approved, and because it was in the government system. And our TAS coordinator across the state, he said, I'm actually going to look into that for you. And then he came back and said, they said no, and they're actually going to work, like go through the steps they need to have it removed from the government purchasing system. So the smallest CNC router that I can get for my students to try and get into CNC milling is a giant benchtop Roland unit. I think the working area was maybe 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters. I don't think it was actually that big. That thing's 16 grand. I understand safety, and that's why I've been going through all these steps. But it really disadvantages kids in the state system. Like, I've got mates who work in the Catholic system and the private system, and they can buy any type of machine they want. They bought one of those in Blazers, $4,000 laser system, as well as a big one like we've got. And he was telling me, like, the big one's much better, like the one we got. The Emblazer is good for just doing photos, and they said it wasn't very good. Couldn't cut through very thick material. And I've seen some schools, private schools, that have the giant 8x4 or 8 foot by 4 foot CNCs, because the kids use them for their major projects, cutting out large parts for making either their project or forms for doing bent lamination and stuff. And our kids just can't access that because it was tough enough trying to get the money to get a $30,000 laser. And the cheapest CNC is that $16,000 little mill, or I think the next one up was a mill designed for metal work, so it's enclosed, and it was like 45 grand. It really makes it hard in multiple ways. Makes it hard for the kids to access this sort of stuff, to learn and to be equipped for when they leave school if they want to go into industry. It makes it hard for myself and other teachers in the system, because how are we supposed to be able to teach this sort of stuff if we can't access the machinery ourselves? And that's why I think some of those cheaper machines would be fine. Anyway, they're getting the news on that smaller CNC being knocked back was a bit tough. I mean, it was only 4.5 grand. Only. Friday, period 4, lunchtime now. Year 9 done. I had two students running on the lathes, just doing practice before they get up to their rolling pin. And then I had one on the domino for his stool,
and 2 marking out their dowel joints for the stall. And when you look around the room, they've packed up pretty well. The stool that's there, that student wasn't here today, so it's just sat there since the last lesson. I'm pretty happy. It wasn't a full class, but the class that was here was good. And right now we've got a, I don't know if the music's coming through, I hope not. There's a youth group that comes around to our school every Friday lunchtime and does stuff with the kids in the quad, and they're out there right now. Oh, and then going to go and have some lunch before I get stuck into more of the... We've got a follow-up audit meeting for vet on Monday, and I'm just getting all the paperwork updated and together, and I'll probably have to do some on the weekend. See what I can get done next period. Hopefully going to finish and do work well over the weekend, or this afternoon, because one of my staff is making a new cap at the top of a kettle so that he can try doing some steam bending for little ukuleles and stuff. And the other thing he did today was 3D printed the lid for that box. You notice 2 different colours. It ran out of the filament overnight, so when he came in this morning he put in the yellow, started it up, and making like a little hinge for it. Just trying to challenge himself, he says, giving everything a go.